Mohammed Lundy has been out of prison for a week now. He works at a dog shelter, and having spent a little time with barred animals, he understands that he has much in common with them. God keeps looking away from the suffering of creatures like them, and if he ever took a good look, he would surely understand. One day, family dog is brought to him and Linda Workman. The man who almost the dog seems to be a cop, and he recognizes Mo from jail. As his wife keeps crying in the car, he tries to provoke Mo, reminding him of the terrible crimes he has committed. Mo chooses to keep his mouth shut, but Linda fights back. As it turns out, Mo was charged by mistake. He was innocent and had to endure dreadful conditions in jail for nothing. Thankfully, the situation doesn't escalate, and the cop returns to his crying wife, taking it as his responsibility to save the beat-up dog. Mo argues not to put him down. Following him throughout the rest of his day, we learn that he is a deeply religious person, living a stoic, seemingly colorless life. The trauma he endured in prison must be troubling him a lot. Most often, people talk about how to endure living behind closed bars, but they scarcely notice the problems that come with sudden freedom. Mo is an individual whose feelings are seemingly desensitized, but his affection for animals is worth noting. In the next scene, despite all the efforts, he and Linda have to put the dog down. Craving fresh air, Mo comes trampling outside and crouches by the fence, cursing the dreadful unfairness that fills the world outside prison. Linda is the only one sharing his troubles, but she looks at these issues from a much more cold-minded perspective. Even though it would be illegal to bury the dog, Mo hides behind a hood that night and does it anyway. To him, this simple act holds enormous meaning. After finishing up, he hears an unusual commotion coming from the shelter and heads over there quickly to check it out. What he encounters makes his mind and feet freeze for a moment. A girl is crouched in front of a latticework, hands blooded, and completely drawn by some overwhelming desperation. Mo suggests that she go away and promises that nobody will ever know about this, but the woman stays unresponsive. Now, Mo turns to offering help. He can call somebody or drive her anywhere she wants if she's in trouble. The man shows affection and a helpful attitude, but the woman is too emotionally broken down to be able to calm down. After uttering a couple of sentences that put fear in Mo's heart, she loses consciousness. Trying to revive her, Mo's hands get covered in blood, and suddenly, he gets extremely confused. He doesn't know when to call anybody. Clearly, the girl is entangled in some dark business, and additionally, the cops might accuse him of yet another crime he didn't commit. On the other hand, the girl might bleed out, determining that she's breathing and still has a pulse. Mo decides to take her to his apartment and lays her down on his mattress. The next afternoon, coming back from work, he finds her still sleeping, illuminated by sunlight. The sight of the girl elicits strong feelings in Mo's heart. Years of suffering were supposed to make him an indifferent, desensitized person, but watching this girl, he finds himself feeling again. The girl doesn't wake up for the next 24 hours. After opening her eyes, she is struck by fear. Looking over the room, she thinks she's been abducted. Desperate to save her life, she grabs a weapon and summons all her bravery to leave the room. Very soon, she and Mo have a standoff, and believing that Mo's an abductor, she attacks him. The man is determined to assure her that he did nothing to her. Soon, he manages to explain the truth to her, and completely disoriented, the girl leans on a wall. Here, Mo learns her name, Doris, and gradually builds trust. Suddenly, the police knock on his door. Reactively, Doris tries to find a place to hide and jams herself inside a large animal cage. When Mo opens the door, the officers inform him that a neighbor filed a report for a domestic disturbance. Recognizing his face from the news, they quickly get more suspicious. One of them calls him Cyclops, or the Beast of Angola. Mo seems to have had an enormous reputation in jail as well, so naturally, the officers try to provoke him and take a good look around. Soon, the situation gets increasingly tense and dangerous. But thankfully, the officers fail to find Doris. Mo leads her outside the cage and receives a gaze of gratitude for the first time. In the next scene, from a TV, he learns more about Doris and what she went through. As it seems, her husband was murdered, and after her disappearance, the police think that she's either a victim or another suspect. If they find her in hiding, Mo will surely be brought back to jail again. This is a dilemma he is facing. Help out the individual who's clearly innocent, but risk the chance of losing freedom once more, or kick her out and save himself, even though it means rejecting his deepest values. At this point in the story, we get to know more about what is going on in Doris's mind as well. To her, the intrusions of her trauma seem to be strongest upon waking up. Still thinking she's at her previous house, she can almost hear the footsteps of her, but she realizes soon afterwards that she's in a completely different apartment. The walls here are white, and the space is hollow and lifeless. Still, this place is far better. Here, she can breathe, and a sense of relief is gradually coming over her. One day, Mo brings the first additional piece of furniture into the apartment to make her feel better. He even tells her that her dog, Charlie, is alive and well. Despite all the hardships he endured, Doris smiles brightly. For a moment, she even seems happy. But once Mo reaches to take a glass from the table, she jumps back reactively. This is an unconscious movement and echo of past trauma. This is what brings Doris and Mo together the most. They are free in a purely legal sense, but psychologically, they are shackled by their pasts. In this moment, they talk about their traumas and their results. Doris seems to believe that she's at fault for Charlie's injuries, while Mo sleeps in a closet. In the next scene, he is eating his lunch in a local restaurant when a group of cops enter the building. With them comes a detective named Shin. Catching a glimpse of Mo, he comes up to him and shares his suspicions openly. He seems to believe that Mo has something to do with a murder case that is currently being investigated. Before moving away, he assures him that they will meet soon. That night, while preparing to pray for God, he is asked a question about his religion. As it turns out, he denied Christianity because it constantly demanded that he confess something, even when he had nothing to confess. Islam has never asked him to do that. Islam means surrender, and this is why he chose to follow it. Doris starts thinking about leaving in the next scene. She knows that by being in his apartment, he is putting him at risk of going back to jail. She doesn't want that to happen, so she expresses her will to not take any more of his time. Mo is against this. Doris is in need of help, and the fact that it's risky doesn't mean that he has to let her go. The next morning, after waking up, Doris finds a plastic bag lying beside her mattress. As it appears, Mo bought her a fresh hand of clothes. After dressing up, she comes out into the living room and thanks him wholeheartedly. This is a kind of basic human attention that she's been lacking for a very long time. Feeling an increasing sense of closeness, she tells him to sleep in the closet in her room. In contrast to this delightful progression of events, the dog shelter is visited by the detective Shin in the next scene. Linda tries to intervene, showing nothing but hostility. She tells him to leave and come back with a warrant. This is her private property, and she has all the right to turn him away. Unfortunately, Shin manages to change her mind. He can leave and come back with a warrant, but that will only take a long time. Him questioning Mo is inevitable. He knows, however, that he's been through a lot, so he'll make sure to be quick. According to the version he shares with Mo in the following scene, they lost track of Doris right around the shelter. She was abused for a long time, and it is only natural that she felt trapped and determined to get rid of her husband. She must have needed somebody else's help. However, somebody who doesn't love cops much, who used to give jail guards permanent brain damage from beating them up. Shin's logical, but extremely provocative, line of questioning enrages Mo. His wounds are deliberately opened up by the detective, and it becomes obvious that demoralizing him was the sole reason for his visit. Mo feels as if his personality will never be of interest to another. To put it differently, he feels that his name is forever stained. But that night, he gets assured otherwise. Doris asks him about himself and adds that she doesn't want to hear anything about jail. She just wants to get to know him better. This is an unexpected question. Thanks to his life, Mo hasn't been thinking that much about who he is. He will need to take baby steps towards knowing himself, and Doris helps him take the first ones. Half jokingly, she says that from her perspective, he is a person who hates furniture, works with dogs, prays a lot, and is nice to her. This is a great beginning. Following this up, Mo remembers that he has a sister somewhere in Alabama, and answering a question about her, he finds himself unusually energized. He begins to get a sense that he's much more than what he is perceived to be. Doris remembers her brother as well, and Mo notices that they are becoming good friends. Opening up more, he emphasizes that he has no idea how to talk to women. He was put in jail when he was 15 and had no chance to practice. This conversation brings them closer than ever. Soon, they find themselves tearing up for no particular reason and begin assuring one another that they are going to be okay. Finally, Doris stands up from her mattress, goes over to the closet, and puts her head on his shoulder. In this meaningful moment, both feel safer and warmer while embracing each other. The next morning, Mo's eyes are filled with life and hope. Looking out from the bus window, he finds himself smiling. Doris has changed too. She is sitting in the apartment when she suddenly hears a dog barking outside. After checking it out, she is shocked by the sight. It is her dog, Charlie, calling for her. Reactively, she dashes out, and looking around, she learns to her that it was only a hallucination. What is even more dreadful is that now the main door of the apartment is jammed. Doris is left outside, and soon Mo's neighbor finds her crouched by the door. It is obvious that she is going to call the police. Meanwhile, Mo sees Detective Shin at work and runs home. Finding the girl by the door, he opens the locked door quickly and ushers her inside. Upset and afraid, he asks her why she was outside. In this moment, both are desperate. Doris tells him about the hallucination and states that she will go turn herself in. The cops will surely be coming, and she doesn't want Mo to go back to that swamp. Here, Mo understands that Doris was the one who murdered her husband. He knows what it's like to explode in response to continual psychological and physical violence. He won't give her a chance to turn herself in. For the first time in his life, he is not alone, and he will do anything to keep her by his side. Thankfully, Mo knows someone who can help them in this situation. So after a few seconds, they pack up, steal a car, and drive away to save their relationship. Leaving their current lives behind, they feel anxious but strangely liberated. After hours of driving and minutes of stealthily trading within a dense forest, they get to an isolated and domesticated clearing. The sun is already setting when Mo ascends the stairs and reaches forward to knock on the door. Suddenly, however, before he manages to do that, the door opens on itself and a man with a shotgun comes outside. The name of the man is Khalil. He seems paranoid and hostile at first, but after recognizing Mo and determining that he and Doris are alone, he welcomes his old friend warmly. Soon, we will understand what Mo had in mind before coming to him. As it turns out, Khalil has contacts with people who can get people across the border. It costs a lot, however, and it is very risky, so Khalil is reasonably reluctant. As it turns out, however, he owes Mo a favor. After a lengthy conversation, he agrees to help. The dinner table is cheerful in the next scene. As the sun sets, Khalil and Mo start remembering their past, and we learn that they were in prison together at some point. They have a lot to tell, the stories that are joy-breaking to recall, and the stories that Mo prefers to be left under the surface. When one of those latter kinds of stories is told, he tries to stop Khalil a couple of times, but he still keeps on going. It is a story about a boy who was cross-eyed. Khalil remembers that one day they sent him to Cyclops. As they explained, getting hit in the head was the perfect way to get rid of his eye problem. The boy did as he was bid. He teased Cyclops and shoved him, but Mo did nothing in return but laugh at him. As Khalil says over the dinner table, it was a canon event, something he will never forget about. The person known for his violence, laughter, and making friends with a person who tried to pick a fight with him. As it turns out, it was after this moment that the brothers gave Mo a holy book. The violent Cyclops was ended, and the peaceful religious Mohammed was born. The next morning, Khalil takes care of every necessary arrangement, hides the couple in the back of his truck, and drives away towards the south border of the USA. Under the tarp, Mo and Doris find themselves unexpectedly comfortable, talking about what their lives looked like before each of their catastrophes. These memories were all buried and lost in the bleakest parts of their minds, but thanks to each other's presence, their personalities have started unfolding again. The desperation and feelingless nihilism have given way to a sense of hope and love. And to celebrate this, Doris leans towards him abruptly and kisses him firmly under the tarp. Here, heading towards a brighter future, they share one long, meaningful kiss. Soon, they are brought to Khalil's associates. These are two individuals, Marty and Frankie. Both of them are talkative, cheerful, and positive, maintaining bright expressions and communicating kindly. They say that they are going to give them shelter for tonight and tomorrow morning, load them up in a truck, and send them over to Juarez, from which they are going to be sent to some other nice folks. They will be the ones taking them to their safe house, and then to their new home in sunny Caracas. The plan seems to be built like clockwork, but the duo doesn't appear to be very trustworthy at first glance. They paint a delightful picture of the future, but Mo stays on guard just in case. Their room is like a poorly lit, cold lair. The first few seconds spent alone are peaceful for the couple. They drink some water and start waiting for the sun to go down and up again. This is the moment when everything suddenly goes blank. When consciousness is finally returned to Mo, he finds himself in cuffs. Looking anxiously around the room, he sees no trace of Doris, and panic starts to come over him. After struggling to free himself, he hears voices coming from the outside and prepares himself for an ambush. Once Mary and Frankie come inside, he dashes towards them and engages in an extremely violent fight. Without even using his hands, he takes care of them both, learns where Doris is, and manages to get a key from Frankie before putting him to sleep. Sensing that his newfound happiness is in danger, the violent part of Mo re-emerges from the depths of his personality, and we see him unfold in front of our eyes. He beats both of them up badly, picks up their bat, and leaves the room at a high pace. The episode gets increasingly tense as he goes over to the place where Doris is supposed to be held. What he finds there is a tunnel going down into the sewage system. Deciding that the tunnel is going to lead him to Doris, he goes down and re-emerges from it together with the girl. They embrace each other immediately. Thankfully, neither of them are hurt, but they still have to escape the place. Going out in the sun again, they are blinded for a single moment until vision comes back to them, and they see a large minivan. Mo manages to get the engine started, but fleeing from danger, his face keeps expressing an uncontrollable, primal aggression. Feeling Doris's hands touching him warmly puts him out of this state immediately, however, and we see him apologizing for himself. He didn't want Doris to see him like this. He's ashamed that he showed a part of himself he thought was banished forever. Doris assures him that it is all right. They are safe now. They are going to a place where they will be free, and nothing can stop it anymore. For a moment, hope dominates in their minds, but suddenly, police sirens are heard from behind. As it turns out, in all the chaos of his mind, Mo failed to control his speed, and now this simple, foolish mistake is going to cost them their freedom. Realizing that everything they went through is about to be destroyed because of this unforeseen fault, Mo breaks down completely. Doris takes over the situation then. She urges him to keep driving no matter what, and following her direction, Mo pushes down the throttle. The minivan excels rapidly, but the tire fails to withstand the pressure. It explodes, and the vehicle stops in the middle of the road. The police car approaches in a couple of seconds. Warnings are given, and now Mo is the one taking the leadership. He assures Doris that the only solution will be to get out and run in the opposite direction. Putting her head in his hands, he repeats to her that he will find her, no matter what. He speaks in such a convincing and inspiring tone that the girl follows his advice. Turning abruptly, she exits the car and starts running, but contrary to what he said, Mo remains in the car. After a couple of seconds, he comes out as well, and instead of running into the forest, he limps towards the police car, screaming that she was his hostage, saying that he was the one who murdered her husband. He kneels down and addresses his God in prayer. He reaches towards his pocket to get his beads, and this is when the shots are fired. Hearing the gunshot, Doris runs back and gets to him before the cops do. She is taken away as well. Thankfully, Mo's injuries don't prove fatal to his life. In the next scene, we see him enter the visiting room, and to our surprise, we see Doris in the jail uniform instead of him. As it turns out, she told the detectives the truth and sacrificed her freedom. As tears roll down their faces, they talk about ordinary things, and even though there is a glass window in between them, they can feel each other's touch as if they were both free. They are free to kiss, and they are free to love. They have each other, and they are all right.